From birth, Beau Wasserman has suffered from paranoia and is afraid of everything in the world. Beau is already middle-aged, but he regularly visits a psychotherapist. Tomorrow Beau is planning to visit his mother. It will be the anniversary of his father's death, a father he never even met. On the one hand, the upcoming trip makes Beau anxious, but on the other, he feels guilty for not visiting his mother for several months. The psychotherapist prescribed Beau a new medication because the previous ones failed to suppress his acute anxiety. Beau has always had an especially close relationship with his mother. In fact, she is the only person on earth who truly understands him. The world around Beau seems full of dangers. To him, every person he encounters is either a criminal or a lunatic who wants to harm him in some way. His apartment is the only safe place for Beau in this city, and even that fragile sense of security has been shaken because a recluse spider was spotted in the building, as all residents were informed. By coincidence, the spider crawled into Beau's apartment. He lives alone and constantly watches crime news, which only fuels his fears, especially considering that a psychopath has appeared in the city. Beau wishes he could see his mother more often. He also keeps a photograph of a sweet-looking girl named Elaine in his bedside table. But who is she? The noise from the neighboring apartment lasted all night. Someone slipped a note under Beau's door, asking him to keep it down. 2 hours later it happened again, making Beau nervous. Who was lurking outside his door? The annoying neighbors became even louder, setting up Beau to take the blame as he continued receiving notes demanding silence. This went on all night. Beau was so exhausted that he didn't even hear his alarm and overslept his flight. In a hurry, he began brushing his teeth and getting ready. Just as he was about to lock up and leave, he remembered he had forgotten something. Barely a minute passed, yet in that short time, someone had stolen Beau's suitcase and his apartment keys. He was catastrophically late for the airport, feeling utterly lost in the situation. Calling his mother, Beau regretfully told her he wouldn't be able to come. But the woman seemed more upset not by the fact that her son's keys and luggage had been stolen, but by the fact that they wouldn't see each other today. Beau didn't know what the right course of action was. He could take a different flight, but would it be safe if an unknown person with his keys now had access to his apartment? When his mother hung up the phone, Beau barely held back his emotions. The mere thought that someone could break into his apartment sent him into a deep panic. Sedatives were Beau's only salvation, but when he realized he hadn't swallowed the pills with water as the doctor had recommended, he suffered a panic attack. He turned on the faucet but no water came out. Looking out the window, Beau saw the street full of people behaving erratically. And they all clearly meant him harm. Reading online about the consequences of taking the medication without water, Beau was convinced he was on the verge of death. He dashed into a store across the street, grabbed a bottle of water from the counter and quickly took several gulps. Only then did Beau approach the cashier, but his card payment wouldn't go through. So he started paying in cash, all while seeing dozens of people with clearly bad intentions entering his apartment building. His apartment was unlocked, causing his panic to skyrocket, soon reaching its peak. Beau rushed back, but when he realized someone had broken into his apartment, he didn't dare go inside. Outside it was as if the apocalypse had begun. Or was it just his troubled imagination? Beau was forced to spend the night on the street, not knowing where else to go. In the morning, Beau was woken by the sound of tools and construction dust falling onto his head. It seemed the worker was completely ignoring Beau's presence. The entrance door to the building was broken. Inside, Beau discovered a body on the floor. Chaos reigned, things were scattered everywhere. Beau called out to someone, but no one responded. What had happened here? Beau locked himself inside his apartment and immediately checked his bank account, only to find it inexplicably blocked. Beau tried calling his mother, but a stranger answered the phone, introducing himself as a deliveryman. According to him, he had found the body of a woman on the floor of the hallway, where a chandelier had apparently fallen on her, and judging by the signs, it had happened several days ago. The deliveryman had already called the police, assuring Beau that he had nothing to do with it. He had just been passing by the house when he noticed a strange smell. Beau was unable to process what he had just heard and hung up. Then he called back, hoping it was some kind of mistake, but the deliveryman answered again and asked for Beau's permission to search the woman's purse for identification. Her name was Mona Wasserman. It really was Beau's mother. The phone slipped from Beau's trembling hand. Refusing to accept the truth, he called his therapist, but only reached voicemail. Beau's world turned upside down as the realization of his mother's death slowly sank in. Suddenly Beau noticed a man crying under the bathroom ceiling, shaking his head frantically. His tears dripped straight onto Beau's face. At one point the man lost his grip and fell right onto him. Breaking free, Beau ran outside, screaming for help, but the madness around him continued, until he was hit by a car. While unconscious, visions from his past haunted him. When he woke up, he found himself in a room with pink wallpaper. It didn't look like a hospital. A kind-looking woman entered and explained that she was the one who had hit him. According to her, after the accident, a passerby had attacked him. Her name was Grace, and Beau was now in the home she shared with her husband, Roger. He could stay as long as he needed. Roger was a surgeon, so he would be able to take proper care of Beau. Remembering that his mother had passed away, Beau burst into tears. Grace tried to comfort him. Maybe it had all just been a bad dream. Beau joined the couple for lunch. They told him about their son, Nathan, who had been a soldier and had died. Beau expressed his condolences. They also had a daughter, Tony, who was clearly unhappy that their guest had taken her room. Hearing this, Beau felt guilty. He didn't want to be an inconvenience to anyone. Grace and Roger also lived with Jeeves, their late son's fellow soldier. If Jeeves skipped his medication, he became violent, a consequence of post-traumatic stress disorder. Beau managed to contact his mother's lawyer, Mr. Cohen, who confirmed that Mona was indeed dead. Mr. Cohen was furious that Beau had been missing for 3 days. The funeral had been postponed an unreasonable number of times because Mona's will stated that she could only be buried in her son's presence. Everyone was waiting for him. Every minute of delay only prolonged their humiliation. Mr. Cohen told Beau to wait, they would be sending for him soon, which meant he needed to get home immediately. However, Roger and Grace insisted that he was in no condition to travel and said they would take him in a few days. Beau cried, trying to explain that he needed to be home as soon as possible. They didn't realize that Tony was secretly recording their conversation on video. Eventually the couple agreed to drive Beau, but only tomorrow. Beau had no choice but to stay the night. Maybe the couple hadn't truly come to terms with losing their son, which was why they were so protective of Beau. He felt awkward knowing that Tony had to sleep in another room because of him. He offered to switch, but the girl firmly asked him not to bother her. Later, unable to sleep, Beau saw Tony heading toward the trailer where Jeeves lived. He wondered what they were talking about. In the morning, Tony threw a fit, claiming that Beau had used her toothbrush. Outside the window, Jeeves was staring at Beau intently. Today was an important shareholder meeting for Grace, so Roger would be driving Beau himself. But then Roger received an urgent call from the hospital. One of his patients had taken a turn for the worse, and he was needed in the operating room immediately. That meant Beau would have to stay another night. He panicked, he had to leave today. Due to his injuries, Beau couldn't travel alone, so all he could do was agree to Roger and Grace's offer, even though they clearly had no intention of letting him go. Beau realized he was trapped. Left alone in the house, Beau watched a news broadcast about the tragic death of 70-year-old Mona, who had been a highly influential woman. Elaine Bray also gave a short interview, and seeing her filled Beau with shock and an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. Tony, clearly annoyed by Beau's presence, offered to drive him home, assuring him that her father wouldn't mind. Tony was accompanied by her school friend. For some reason, Tony introduced Beau as her new brother, even though he was obviously too old to be adopted. The girls offered Beau something to smoke. When he tried to politely refuse, they threatened to tell Roger that Beau had behaved inappropriately. He had no choice but to go along with it while Tony's friend recorded everything on her phone. When Beau started coughing, the girls burst into laughter. Panic gripped Beau as he feared he might die because of the cigarette. It seemed to him that the car was shrinking and that they were driving in circles. At one point in the reflection of the glass, Beau saw a familiar female figure. This sent him deep into the past, to the day he and his mother were at the beach. That was when Beau first met Elaine. Elaine's family was staying at the same hotel as Beau and his mother. Beau fell in love at first sight, and Mona noticed it immediately. She was ready to have an open conversation with her son, despite his embarrassment. Elaine was a bright and independent girl, so she needed a man to match her. And Beau could become that man. In the present, the girls still hadn't taken Beau home. Grace and Roger returned late, looking very pleased. Beau had always had an especially close relationship with his mother. They could share any secret with each other. But when Beau was still a teenager, another woman appeared in his life, only a young one, Elaine. Unlike the shy Beau, she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Beau felt that she was his destiny. In the present, Tony woke him up, throwing another tantrum because he had taken her room. But Tony's parents clearly didn't care about their daughter's opinion. Crying, Tony ran to Jeeves' trailer. In the past, Beau was awakened by Elaine sobbing as she told him that her mother was taking her away. The girl confessed her love to Beau and begged him to wait for her. Before Elaine's mother dragged her away, the girl gave Beau her photograph. In the present, Jeeves burst into the house, shouting that Beau had mocked him. Grace and Roger quickly pinned Jeeves to the floor and injected him with a sedative. They assured Beau that Jeeves was simply haunted by nightmares from his military past and that in reality he loved Beau. In the morning, Roger suggested they have a farewell barbecue before taking Beau home. Grace treated Beau with maternal warmth. Tony appeared in tears, holding 2 cans of paint. She declared that they had to paint Nathan's room pink right now. Beau tried to convince the girl to stop, reminding her that her parents cherished that room. Tony started accusing Beau of barging into her life and stealing her parents. Beau didn't understand what she was talking about and assured her that he never intended to steal anyone or anything. Suddenly Tony said they should drink the paint together, and Beau would do it first. Of course he refused, and then Tony began drinking the paint herself. Grace ran in, and screaming in despair, tried to revive her daughter, but it was too late. She blamed Beau for everything, screaming that she had replaced her son with a demon, and started hitting him. Seizing the moment, Beau escaped straight through a glass door, shattering it. While Grace screamed threats to take his life, Beau ran through the forest but crashed into a tree branch and lost consciousness. Some time later, Beau woke up in the same forest and wandered through it late into the night, not knowing where he was. Suddenly he heard a woman singing. Then he saw the woman herself, dressed in medieval clothing, pregnant, holding a lantern in her hand. Beau explained that he had been in an accident and was lost. The woman kindly offered to clean his wounds. Beau agreed to follow her, which led him to a strange place where people lived in tents and dressed as if they were from the Middle Ages. It was like a piece of a living fairy tale on Earth. Or was it just a theatrical production with actors? Beau noticed spotlights above an improvised stage and various props. The woman explained that they were rehearsing for a play. These people called themselves the Orphans of the Forest. They were traveling performers, moving from forest to forest, building shelters from whatever they could find. Upon learning that Beau had lost his mother, they all expressed their condolences. The play began, and Beau was invited to participate. The costumer explained that they blurred the line between audience and actors. Meanwhile, enraged Jeeves was running through the forest, searching for Beau to get his revenge. Beau didn't fully understand what was happening or why he was here. The play was about a young man who had lost his parents and his home. An actor was portraying grief, crying out that he had lost even himself. But then an angel descended to the young man, telling him that he had mourned enough and had honored his parents' memory with dignity. Now they had found peace, but the past, like shackles, continued to hold the young man back. Only by breaking the shackles could he find freedom. Beau felt that he was the protagonist of this story. The play and reality had merged, becoming indistinguishable from each other. He had a long journey ahead before he could find a village that would accept him, a home where he could start anew. There, Beau would learn a craft, earn money, and discover the pleasure of simple things like food. He would also meet a woman with whom he would walk the path of life together. They would have children, 3 sons, and when the time came, Beau would begin teaching them. The boys would live up to all of Beau's expectations, and he would share his pride with his therapist. But one day a hurricane would hit the village, tearing down Beau's house and sweeping him away from his family. He would find himself in foreign lands and embark on a long journey to find his children and wife, leading him to a village ravaged by a terrible disease. There, a man who had lost his sanity would see in Beau the very evil that had taken everything from the villagers. Enraged men would throw Beau into a dungeon. Left alone with his thoughts, he would begin to doubt whether he was truly innocent. In the end, Beau would escape. Driven by vengeance, the men would set a hound on his trail, one that could find him even at the ends of the earth. Decades would pass, but Beau would continue searching for his family until his life faded, becoming nothing more than the dream of a ghost. Beau would weep, having spent so many years searching for his family only to never find them. Maybe someone had been searching for him too? An angel told Beau that he had become so lost in self-pity that no one would ever find him. The only thing he could do now was seek forgiveness from his loved ones. Thus heaven would grant him redemption, and he would miraculously find himself at the foot of his village. No one would recognize him, but the scents and sensations would awaken his memories. Beau would be invited to a special play, one performed in the village theater for one night only. Even though all of Beau's old neighbors had long since given way to a new generation, he would feel that his home had been waiting for him. No sooner had Beau taken his seat among the audience than he realized the play bore a striking resemblance to his own life. On stage sat 3 young men. They recognized the old man as their father and rushed into his arms, crying. Beau had spent his entire life searching, only to find his sons and learn that his wife had disappeared after the storm. The young men had been raised as orphans, with no other relatives left. Beau too had lost his mother, but what had happened to his father? Many years ago, Mona had revealed to her son that his father had passed away on their wedding night. He had suffered from a heart condition. Both Beau's grandfather and great-grandfather had passed away under the same circumstances. Beau had inherited the condition as well. Once Mona had lost the love of her life only to gain something greater, motherhood. But if Beau wished to continue his bloodline, it would likely cost him his life. That was why Beau had never had close relationships with women. Suddenly he snapped back to reality, finding himself once again among the audience in the forest theater. The pregnant woman asked him worriedly if he was all right and offered him some water. In gratitude, Beau gave her an angel figurine that had been meant for his mother. A man then approached and asked Beau if he recognized him and how he had ended up there. The man also claimed that Beau's father was actually alive. For a long time the man had cared for him, as he owed a great debt to Mona. Before Beau could process what he had just heard, the man expressed his joy at their meeting and hurried away. Beau even wondered if that man had been his father. Suddenly someone began shooting at the stage and actors, spreading panic. Jeeves had begun his hunt. Beau ran, unaware that Grace and Roger had managed to place a special tracking bracelet on his ankle. This allowed Jeeves to remotely incapacitate him with an electric charge. As a child, Beau had deeply missed having a father. He had always wished to be a different version of himself, the kind that wasn't afraid to stand up to his domineering mother. Mona had strictly forbidden her son from going up to the attic, but one day she decided it was time for him to see what had been hidden there. Beau regained consciousness in the forest and made his way to the highway. An elderly man stopped and gave him a ride. Thus Beau returned to his mother's house, but by then, the funeral had already ended, leaving only a recording. Many influential people had attended to honor Mona's memory, the woman who had built a powerful business empire. Beau felt guilty for not fulfilling his mother's last wish. Everything in the house reminded him of his childhood. His mother had truly been a strong woman, one who had rightfully earned universal recognition. Beau lay down on the couch in the living room and fell asleep. That night, a woman's voice woke him. He could hardly believe his eyes. Elaine stood before him, having arrived too late for the funeral. She did not recognize her first love. When Beau revealed who he was, she couldn't believe it either. They had met again after so many years. Elaine expressed her condolences, genuinely sorry for his loss. Beau admitted that he had been waiting for her, just as he had promised. Elaine found it so touching that she couldn't hold back her tears. She didn't know what to do, step inside or walk away. Unexpectedly Beau kissed her, and together they went inside. Right now the only thing on Elaine's mind was where the bedroom was. Of course Beau guessed what Elaine wanted, but she didn't know that it could cost him his life. However, everything turned out the opposite way. When it was over, Elaine suddenly passed away. Suddenly Mona appeared, outraged by the fact that her son was not particularly happy to see her, even though just a minute ago, she had been dead. As if nothing had happened, Mona ordered the servants to remove Elaine's body. Beau stood there in confusion, unable to comprehend what was happening. Mona, however, continued to express her outrage that her son had defiled her bedroom immediately after her supposed death. But in reality it was not Mona who had been buried, but her housekeeper, Martha, who had also been Beau's nanny. According to Mona, Martha volunteered. Every member of her family had received a sufficient reward never to work again. Mona had staged her own death to force her son to come. She was certain that his story about losing his apartment keys and missing his flight was just an excuse to avoid visiting her. Mona never knew a mother's love. No matter what she did, she was never worthy of it. And Mona wanted her child to have everything she had been deprived of. But Beau never appreciated a mother's love, or at least that's what Mona believed. It turned out that Beau's therapist had been recording all their sessions and sending them to Mona. In his conversations with the doctor, Beau often complained that his mother was overbearing, constantly demanding his attention. She wanted him to repay her love with even greater love. But why was Dr. Jeremy involved in this? And why had his mother lied to him all these years, including about his father? Mona told her son that she simply wanted to shield him from the terrible truth. But now it was time for Beau to learn her secret, hidden in the attic all these years, the place he had always been forbidden to go. Despite his fear, at his mother's insistence, Beau climbed up and saw an emaciated old man, who a moment later transformed into a surreal monster. Suddenly Jeeves appeared and started shooting at the monster but suffered a fatal injury. Beau in terror ran screaming from the attic, unable to say anything, only sobbing uncontrollably. Mona said that the old man upstairs was his father. Mona had sacrificed so much to give Beau life. But she had become disillusioned with motherhood. At that moment Beau snapped and attacked her but stopped just in time, horrified by his own actions. However, Mona could not come to terms with what had happened and collapsed lifeless. Beau left his mother's house, then took a boat, lowered it into the water and rowed forward, into the unknown. Beau drifted through a cave, under a starry sky, until the motor suddenly stalled. Suddenly floodlights turned on, and Beau found himself at the center of an amphitheater filled with spectators. It was Beau's trial, attended even by his mother. Mr. Cohen, acting as the judge, accused Beau of lacking a conscience, lacking respect for his mother and of other sins worthy of punishment. The therapist recorded the judge's entire emotional speech while Beau in despair tried to defend himself. Was he truly a bad person, unworthy of his mother's love? The motor of Beau's boat caught fire while he himself was unable to move, his legs refused to obey. Beau called for help, but everyone including his mother remained indifferent. Suddenly Beau's boat overturned, becoming his trap. He struggled to swim up, but it was futile. Was this a dream or death? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.